Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network. I am, as always, your host, Flex Shane. I'm joined also, as always, by Alan Seslowski, aka at Season Long Says. How you doing, brother?
All right. You said ladies and gentlemen. You think there's ladies listening to us? Do you think we have female fans at this point?
I know we have a few female
Oh,
fans.
that's true. That's true. I have seen them
Yes,
right pop in, you know.
absolutely. We are a diverse. We have a diverse audience. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Yeah, no, this is good. We are on Super Bowl day of Super Bowl,
Yes,
and what
sir.
better way to kill the few hours before than to talk a little fantasy football?
That's right. So, just getting the a few things out of the way. Obviously, our boy Flex Matt is not here. He'll be joining
Sorely
us again
missed.
next week. Sorely missed. Always sorely missed. If you like what you're listening to, please like and subscribe to the podcast. It helps. It really helps people, and it lets us know that you actually like what we're producing here. So, Al, we were talking about sophomore wide receivers going into next year, and we decided we absolutely had to have a show about it. Just a few riffing. I mean, I'm gonna name off some guys, and I want to handle this from a dynasty perspective, right? So, say you're drafting a startup dynasty draft now. I want to understand where you think some of these guys are going to be going, or more so, where you would want to be taking them. I mean, sometimes there's going to be the hype machine, right? But let's not bury the lead. Let's just get right to it. So, what do you think about pretty much the top scoring rookie wide receiver this year going into next year, AJ Brown? What are your thoughts on him? First of all, his rookie season, and then going into the sophomore season.
Yeah, I think the key is when you're talking about sophomore wide receivers and how it relates to where you would take them in a dynasty startup draft, you have to get ahead of the curve a little bit, and you have to be aggressive because, I mean, looking at the year ahead, what the sophomores from last year, the guys that are in their third year now, presumably they're still ascending. I mean, I have two of those guys that are now in my top 12 dynasty receivers, specifically DJ Moore as a top 5 or 6 wide receiver in PPR leagues, and Cortland Sutton certainly in the top 12. So we got to take a look and say, hey, who's going to be in that position for next season? Who do we have to take a little bit earlier than the market? Maybe they produced, they flashed, they showed enough. And you mentioned AJ Brown. He would certainly be in the top 15 wide receivers taken next year. But I think there's 3 guys, and we can break them down one by one. But 3 sophomores that I expect to take the leap into the wide receiver 1 conversation for next season: Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, and Terry McLaurin.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. You got Catch TMC, our boy. Well, let's start with AJ Brown. Let's just talk about what he did. So he ended up finishing the number 23 wide receiver on the season. This is based on 16 games PPR. And he had, overall he had, I'm looking to see, he's got 52 receptions, over 1,000 yards. So he broke that 1,000-yard threshold, and he had 8 touchdowns. Now, what we like to see about rookie wide receivers, I mean, we don't typically expect them to be overly productive in a rookie season, but what we want to see is progression throughout the season. And that's why health is so important with these young guys. So AJ Brown, second half of the season, is when he really came on.
Yeah, I mean, game 1, the guy had 100 yards with Marcus Mariota. I mean, the first game of his rookie season, it was about 3 catches, 100 yards. So right away, you knew the guy was, okay, this is something. I mean, he was a top all of the pre-draft. He was in the top 2 or 3 receivers, most professional rankers, even before the draft. And then after he landed in Tennessee, he plummeted down the rankings, including my own, stupidly. We couldn't have made that assumption that Ryan Tannehill was going to come in and save the day. We all thought that he would take the job at some point, but on a run-heavy team, it was tough to anticipate. I think people were still giving Corey Davis a chance to emerge as the number 1. So I don't see any reason. You know what's good about AJ Brown? There was a lot of hype coming out of week 16, 17. He didn't do anything in the real playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally did not show up. I don't know if that's any fault of his own. They were deciding to give the ball to Derrick Henry and just have him just go Earl Campbell on everybody. But so I think A.J. Brown's price is going to be depressed in most startup leagues, including redraft. And I still think that he would probably be a great buy in the 3rd round of redraft and startup, which is probably where he'll go.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, people tend to have their hindsight bias, right? And they will look at what just happened. And the truth is, the hardcore dynasty players, they're going to love AJ Brown no matter what. But the casual dynasty player, if such a thing exists, may say, okay, AJ Brown didn't produce in the playoffs, therefore I don't value him as high.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is that as the offseason goes on, more and more people are going to be talking about AJ Brown, just like people were talking about Christian Kirk last year and DJ Moore last year, or even Curtis Samuel last year, right? And as the offseason goes on, these guys, their ADP just absolutely skyrockets. So if you are going to make a play for AJ Brown, sooner is probably better.
Yeah, I mean, you can only draft when your draft is going in startups. And if you're trying to, I think there's no better time than now to trade for him. But let me ask you a question. I mean, who would you rather have in Dynasty Fantasy Football? Would you rather have Odell Beckham or would you rather have A.J. Brown?
I think it's A.J. Brown, man. I mean, just the fact that Odell has not really produced for a couple of years. I mean, you look at the talent, but he has been derailed by injuries. And now it's just, and the coach, but it's just, man, I worry about him. Like he seems like he's a head case. And I don't want to go to the absolute extreme, but
Antonio Brown
was
was a head case, but he produced. I mean, you could be a head case and produce. He never did anything off the field that has any suspension risk or anything like that, Odell Beckham. And, I guess really the point is that, someone who is probably still in his late peak, Odell Beckham, or someone on the rise, A.J. Brown in Dynasty. It's an interesting question. I mean, if you really thought A.J. Brown, you would take A.J. Brown in the first round because Odell Beckham is certainly going to be a top 20 pick in Dynasty startup. And if he's not, let me in that league. I want to buy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, a guy like A.J. Brown, I mean, here's the thing. The guy's talented. Like Odell Beckham, one of the reasons he was so successful with Eli was that he just got the ball in his hands and he was a yak machine, right? Yards after the catch. So let's look at A.J. Brown's real quick. So in total, he had 1,051 yards, 1,051 yards. His yards after catch, 463. That's almost half of his total yards. That's like roughly half of his total yards, 40% of his total yards were just yards after the catch. Absolutely. That's a big deal in my opinion. That just shows talent.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. Odell Beckham he's one of these guys that's gettable now. And so you're talking about A.J. Brown?
That was A.J. Brown.
Okay, yeah. So with A.J. Brown, yeah, I mean, look, he looks like a running back after he catches the ball. He doesn't look like a receiver that's trying to make a couple moves and go down or go out of bounds. He looks like he's a running back in the open field. He's a very interesting build. We talked about it a bunch of times. I've heard it all over Twitter, but I think we were quick to say that peak Aquan Bolden was really an interesting comp for him. And it's funny that the two receivers at the top of most boards of the sophomores are Deebo Samuel and AJ Brown, and they have a similar body type, right? Where they look like they're running backs in a receiver position. So
it's like the high BMI type players.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, AJ Brown's a super talented guy. And if Ryan Tannehill who knows if Derrick Henry's even going to be there next year? He's an unrestricted free agent. He has come out, and I've seen some news blurbs saying that he's using Zeke Elliott's deal as the baseline. He's going to want some real money, and, maybe somebody will pay him. I could see Derrick Henry ending up as a Miami Dolphin, and then all of a sudden the Tennessee Titans are a passing team, and they're not a running team, and maybe they get a 2020 running back. So I think sky's the limit for A.J. Brown. I'm all in. If his lack of production in the playoffs does not bother me. I'm going to be taking him in the second round of any draft I'm in if I'm picking early in the first round. So anytime after pick 20, like, he's in play, and I wouldn't be surprised if A.J. Brown ends up being a top 15 pick in all formats next year.
Okay, so say you're in just a regular dynasty league and you've got your rookie draft coming up. Would you give one of the top 3 101, like not super flex, let's just talk a regular dynasty redraft. Would you trade any of those top 3 picks for those probably 3 running backs for AJ Brown?
Yeah, so that's a really great question to measure it in picks. And I think I would the top 3 picks I would not, because there's 3 running backs at the top that I really like, and those running backs are really where you make your money in dynasty. I mean, they have the a short window, 2 to 3 years, to really produce at a high level. By year 4, sure, it could be, but you're not banking on it. And of course, you want to build your team around young wide receivers. But I think pick 1, 2, and 3, I'm not. But for pick 4, because that's kind of where I have those the 2 elite receivers ranked in this class, I would do it. So if I owned pick 104 and somebody wanted to give me AJ Brown for that, I would do it. 1, 2, and 3, I'd probably hold on to those picks.
I think that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. The thing too about wide receivers, we just talked about it, is that these rookies, it takes them a little time to get into the league and become acclimated. So if you have a guy like AJ Brown and you're taking him essentially over Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb, whichever guy you prefer, you're going to get that extra year of production out of him. Yeah. And to me, that's a big deal.
Yeah, he's integrated, right now, and we don't know where those guys are going to land. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that, if Jerry Jeudy ends up with, on the Jets, are you super excited about it? I mean, you're kind of, if CeeDee Lamb ends up in another place where they're in Arizona, yeah, you're happy about it, but there's it's a good system, good QB, but it's, there's a lot of receivers there. So, but if they end up with a good quarterback situation, say the Raiders upgrade their QB, and then one of those receivers ends up there, you're really excited about it. So I think the known AJ Brown, what he's doing. So, all right, what else? What are some of the other receivers that you like heading into year 2, Shane?
All right. Well, you mentioned him before, Catch TMC. He was definitely one of our favorites in the offseason. I would say Flex Matt was the first to really just fall in love with Terry McLaurin, but in the offseason, as the season went on, though, we certainly became a little bit more infatuated with this guy. So Terry McLaurin, overall, he finished as, let me just see here, as the number 25 wide receiver overall. He had 919 receiving yards. He had 7 touchdowns and 220 yards after the catch. So this was a guy that really he was productive in the air, and let's call it what it was. He was the best receiver by far on that team in Washington. What's your outlook for Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really going to depend on what happens with the quarterback situation. You and I have talked about this before. I think Washington at pick 2 is absolutely insane if they don't take Tua. I know there's, all right, think about it like this. Let's pull this conversation back to Tua, and then we'll jump into Terry McLaurin. Because, in the preseason, I had Terry McLaurin in my top 13 overall picks. I was pretty high on Terry McLaurin because of his extremely good route running ability. And, he was going in the 3rd round of most rookie drafts. I'm upset that I punted too long and missed out on him in our league that we play in together. But back to Tua. Last year, the Arizona Cardinals, they basically sold Josh Rosen away to take Kyler Murray. So why the hell wouldn't you do that if you're Washington? I don't remember anyone saying tank for Haskins. I mean, they were saying tank for Tua. And if you don't believe Haskins is your guy that can get you to the Super Bowl, you don't just pass because you took him last year. And if Tua, by all accounts, he's going to be healthy enough to throw in April. And even if he's not, I think that you'd be crazy not to do it. I've heard a lot of talk that you take Chase Young, the defensive end. What is he? Ohio State, right? Chase Young.
Yeah, I believe
so. So,
Chase Young, Ohio State.
Either you draft Tua there or you sell the pick, because think about this: a quarterback needy team is going to give you 3 firsts and 2 seconds, the RG3 type of deal. And if you don't do it, if you draft Chase Young and that type of offers on the table, that's basically saying that you would rather have that one player, Chase Young, than 3 firsts and 2 seconds. Either you sell the pick for the mother load or draft Tua. I don't think you take Chase Young there. And if Tua is there, he looks like an accurate mobile quarterback, looks like a future star. Just because he got hurt, everybody stopped talking about him as a top pick. And if Tua is there and gets acclimated, I think Terry McLaurin is a top 12 wide receiver in the league.
I mean, yeah, you absolutely nailed it. And that's one of the biggest or the toughest decisions these teams have to make is Dwayne Haskins the quarterback of the future? And if he's not, and you honestly believe that he's not, and that he's not going to be able to improve and get to that point, you have to move on. The sooner you move on, the more successful you're going to be.
Right.
We saw with Josh Rosen, and frankly, Arizona was better for it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't mean that you have to throw Haskins to the side. You have a rookie quarterback who's now going to have some pressure because there's someone there to take his job. You take that. Listen, the last thing the one area the Redskins were good in was defensive pressure. I mean, to take Chase Young, sure, it's an embarrassment of riches. And unless, this guy's Lawrence Taylor, which I don't think he is. I mean, just based on what I saw, he looks like very good. But unless this guy's Lawrence Taylor, I don't see why you wouldn't take. Again, remember, it was only a year ago everyone was saying tank for Tua, tank for Tua. This is the guy. I don't know what happened besides an injury, a serious injury, but the guy's young. He's going to recover. I'm all in there, as you and I have talked about. And as it relates to Terry McLaurin, I mean, sky's the limit. He just looks like he's going to be a machine for many years to come.
Look at that. We actually have some listeners. We got Watch Jess.
Of course we have some listeners.
Some live
you're shocked.
It's his last minute ads.
People are bored Super Bowl day. They're looking for people talking about football. Hey man, we're happy to oblige.
Absolutely. Okay, so $1 million question. Where are you drafting Terry McLaurin? 4th round?
In redraft, or are we talking about dynasty?
We're talking about dynasty startup.
Oh man, he's 2nd round pick. There's no way.
Round pick for you.
Again, I think those top 3 sophomores, Debo, AJ Brown, and Terry McLaurin, they are stars. They are wide receiver 1s for the next 5 years. They should be taken in the 2nd round before any Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen types.
Yeah.
There's no way in a single QB league that I'm in that I'm letting them fall out of the 2-3 turn.
Okay, no, fair enough.
We talk about building your dynasty teams around established wide receivers. This is how you do it. In startup drafts, you get those wide receivers early, and then you draft running backs as the years go on.
I think, absolutely. I think that as you do more and more of these rookie drafts, you realize that, cream of the crop, those first round running backs are really what help you win, and having those established wide receivers. Because again, we already nailed it. Like the rookie wide receivers, more often than not, are not going to win your league, right? Like at best, they're typically going to be a wide receiver 3 or high end wide receiver 2. So, okay. So what are your thoughts on Deebo Samuel then? Like if you had to rank those guys 1, 2, 3, are you going AJ Brown, Debo, Terry McLaurin, different order?
Yeah, I would go Debo, AJ, Terry McLaurin only because of the offense, the QB, the coaching, and again, all of that could shuffle and change, but you got to feel good about Debo and the San Francisco offense.
So Debo's your 1 out of those 3 guys.
Only because of the QB stability, the coaching stability. I mean, as far as pure talent, it maybe not, but that's the one I would take first out of the 3. What's your opinion? You obviously have a different opinion.
No, I mean, I've got AJ, Debo, Terry McLaurin. So I mean, we're grasping at straws here. Like
I'd be happy to have any one of those 3 on my team.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you're picking like early, you got like a top 3 pick, right? So you go and you get like a Saquon Barkley or a CMC or something like that. And then on the 2-3 turn, if you nail 2 of these guys, like you get like an AJ Brown or even just Debo and TMC, I think you're laughing, right? You're pretty happy with that.
Oh yeah.
In your rookie drafts. Okay, so some of these guys that are a little bit on the I would say not quite as high up, but like DK Metcalf and Darius Slayton. These were 2 guys that shined. DK Metcalf, I mean, obviously he's an Adonis, right? Like he's one of these guys that people thought, okay, he's got a great body, he's got workouts, metrics, but is he going to be able to produce in the NFL? And I mean, we all saw that playoff game, right, where he put up, what was it, like 160 odd yards?
Yeah, and I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, like, he's got that upside, right? So we've seen his ceiling, but we've also seen his floor where he can get like 2 targets for like 3 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is who he's going to be for the rest of his career. He's going to be the perfect wide receiver 3 on your fantasy football team. The guy where you just put him in every week, and some weeks he's going to win it for you. Some weeks he's going to get single-digit fantasy points, and you don't take him out because you're never going to be able to predict which games those are. And that's what I want out of my wide receiver 3. I know some people think that their wide receiver 3 should be Cole Beasley types, steady Eddies, 9 to 13 points, maybe you get a touchdown every week. I just want to plug it in there. That's not how I play fantasy football. I play fantasy football where my wide receiver 3 is a guy who wins the week for me, or I just got to make it up somewhere else. And DK Metcalf feels like he's going to fall and be anywhere from like wide receiver 18 to wide receiver 25 every year for the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's what it feels like to me with some wide receiver, top 10 finishes, 3 of those a season.
Well, and as he starts to get more acclimated to that offense, I mean, I get the feeling Seattle's always going to try to be a run-first offense. But with if it's really him and Tyler Lockett, then I think that, that trust factor is going to increase. And when Russell's just got to get rid of the ball, he's probably going to go for his tall wide receiver, right? And that's a guy like DK Metcalf.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And like that's what I said. So there's going to be some good weeks, some weeks that aren't as good. But you talked about the running game, but are there any running backs that they're going to be able to count on and healthy? I'm looking right now at cap space for 2020. Now, we agree that Seattle is one of the top 7, top 8, top 10 teams in the NFL, teams that consider themselves for Super Bowl run. Could they be in the free agent running back market? They have the 6th most cap space in the entire league. I know they have to sign some other key players, but could, if they get a Melvin Gordon type of running back, someone, overpay for a running back, which is a Derrick Henry, something like that, I think I would like DK even a little bit more. Not that he, it just, like you said, he looks the part. He is a big part of that offense. He is going to be a touchdown machine for many years to come. I like him. I just don't think he's going to be as consistent as the top 3 players that we already named.
Okay, so I'm not looking at the salary caps, but if you're saying they have all that salary cap space,
yeah, they have the 6th most in the league heading into next season.
Is there any realm of possibility that Derrick Henry could end up there?
Let me say, actually, the 7th most. Yeah, I mean, of course, anyone who's got cap space. Here's the most cap space. I'll give you the top 6. Okay. Miami's got the most. So one of the big time running backs. I think Melvin Gordon's going to end up there. Indianapolis, Tampa, another possibility. Buffalo has the 4th. Dallas has the 5th most cap space, but obviously we know that they have Dak and Cooper to sign. So that's, cap space for now. That's not real cap space. The Giants have 6 and Seattle has 7. So that's Houston has the 9th most cap space. Their possibility. It'll be interesting once free agent rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a whole different podcast. Like that's just a lot of fun.
Yep. I have a question for you about the sophomores, though.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about your favorite team, the New England Patriots. All right.
Yes.
N'Keal Harry. What, I mean, are you totally off him? Are you looking to buy him dynasty? What's the price? And where does he go in startups? Do you still like him as a player?
Okay. So N'Keal Harry, I liked him as my top wide receiver before he was drafted by the New England Patriots. So needless to say that when they drafted him, I was pretty ecstatic about it. Now, obviously his rookie season was pretty much derailed by injuries, but I'm not totally off him right now. And let me basically explain why. We've seen veteran wide receivers go into New England and struggle. And one of the reasons they struggle so much is simply because it's apparently a very complex system. It's a complex system for veterans to learn, let alone a rookie. Throwing a rookie who is pretty much injured throughout the entire rookie season, and then when they need him the most, I mean, he just wasn't able to get on the field. And so for me, I think I'm still pretty bullish on N'Keal Harry, but obviously he's got to stay healthy, right? So much of it comes down to health. And if I was to say, look, if you're trying to trade for a guy like N'Keal Harry, I think that whoever owns him today in Dynasty is probably going to be pretty high on him simply because they would have had to spend a high draft pick last year.
Yeah, but right? are they looking to get out? They might be looking to get out.
If they're looking to get out, I guess it's always about the price, right? Like if I'm an N'Keal Harry owner, I wouldn't take anything less than probably a mid first.
Would you take 111 for him?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I'm still pretty bullish on N'Keal Harry. I mean, obviously, well, sorry, go ahead, Al.
Isn't it amazing that the New England Patriots passed on Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf? They passed on all these guys to draft Harry. I mean, think about how they've used their top draft capital over the last 2 years. They used Sony Michel, the first-round pick. I mean, safe to say, I mean, he was considered the better prospect than his teammate Nick Chubb. At this point, Nick Chubb went in the second round. They spent the second-round pick on Mohamed Sanu. Okay, that's a good draft pick right there. And they've spent a first-round pick on N'Keal Harry. I mean, you can't take the 6 Super Bowls away from the Patriots over the last 2 decades, but use of that early draft capital has been shocking to me. Passed on Lamar Jackson. I mean,
Well, I mean, a lot of my friends have been bugging me a little bit about Jimmy Garoppolo being in the Super Bowl, and everybody's saying, "Well, are you still happy, or how do you feel about the fact that the Patriots traded him?" And I said, "Listen, like it's all about timing and situation. There's no way they were going to franchise take him, right?" Fast forward to this year, and there's a lot of ambiguity. I mean, truthfully, I don't think he's going to be. This is Tom Brady. I don't think Brady's going to be back as a Patriot. I think he's going to test out the market. I mean, there's some rumors that they registered their kid in a Nashville school, so there's maybe something to that. But all being said, I think that a guy like N'Keal Harry, if he produces in the offseason and he gets better and he practices and he stays healthy, he's the kind of guy that I think could ascend to be a target hog on that offense. Especially if Jared Stidham's going to be the one throwing the ball, he's going to want somebody that he trusts. And look, Julian Edelman is as old as I am, and that's pretty fucking old. Excuse my French. So, I mean, how much longer is he really going to be able to produce at a high level when we already saw it slip? And Julian Edelman struggled with injuries pretty much his entire career. So I could see N'Keal Harry ascending to that number one wide receiver position in the Patriots offense. I think Bill Belichick's still going to be there, and guess what? He's going to want to use his best weapons. So yeah, I'm bullish on him. If it's a rookie startup draft, I'm probably drafting him round six or so. I'm still high enough on him that I would probably use one of my high mid-round picks like that on N'Keal Harry.
I could live to regret this, but I'm out on Harry. I was out on him. I was out on him last year.
Yeah.
I just went and before this podcast checked where I had him ranked in after the draft on the DFS Army website. In rookies, I had him 14th overall. I had Terry McLaurin 13th. Yeah, I had moved him way down. I was out on him just because it just wide receivers in the Patriots. Not that N'Keal Harry's not a good player. I think that it's for some reason young wide receivers go there and they're very confused. It looks like that Tom Brady has to mind meld with you. I mean, think about Julian Edelman was a defensive back. He was a return specialist, and then it took him a while until him and Brady had that mind meld and he became who he was. I don't know. That's why they go after the veteran wide receivers. I just don't. It's very confusing to me.
Okay, all right. Well, let's assume Tom Brady's not back. Is that good?
Well, I think yeah. I mean, obviously, it depends who the QB is there. I think that if Tom Brady does not go back to New England, they're not going to turn the keys over to Jared. Would say Stidham is yeah. I think that Andy Dalton is an unrestricted free agent. That would be the type of quarterback that Bill Belichick would have there until they find the replacement. And maybe Jacoby Brissett. I don't know what his contract situation is, but he's has some history in New England. I just don't see him going to that player. All right, let's go down our list. Who else we have on the sophomore wide receivers?
Okay, I'm just gonna name a few guys off here and tell me.
Well, you said Slayton. You were talking about Slayton.
Darius Slayton's the first guy I'd really like to talk about. I mean, I think he showed a lot of good flashes.
Yeah. But
the reality is that he was elevated to the top receiver on that depth chart simply because of injuries. What do you think going forward? Is he going to be still probably? Is he worth a wide receiver 3? Roughly.
Oh yeah, I think better than that. I think his future. When I think about Darius Slayton with Daniel Jones, and as you know how I felt about Daniel Jones ever since the preseason, I thought he was good. I thought he was worth that pick, and where the Giants took him. I know, there was some talk that like, hey, the Giants could wait till pick 17. You take your guy when you have him. But I like Slayton a lot. I wasn't on him early in the draft season. I got on him pretty late. I had heard some pretty smart people talking about him. I didn't get to see a lot of tape on him beforehand, but he showed exactly what you want to see from a rookie wide receiver. Explosive playmaking ability, and with the young Daniel Jones there, I love him. I think that he could be a top 17, top 18 receiver for the duration of the foreseeable future of his career. I'm in on Darius Slayton. I don't think you're going to have to take him in the first 4 rounds of any dynasty startup, but certainly worth a top 50 pick in dynasty startups if you need a receiver.
I think you were super high on him. I think you actually had him in our dynasty league. You dropped him.
Yeah,
this guy
stupid
picked him up.
Yeah, very bad.
But anyways, listen, he finished as wide receiver 37. That's just outside a wide receiver 3. And again, we talked about, did he grow in his rookie season? He had a great preseason, and then as the season went on and the Giants needed him to step up, he did it. So he's a guy that absolutely the future's bright for him. Okay, I'm going to read off a few more guys. Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown, Mecole Hardman. Where you at on those 3 guys?
Yeah, I mean, seems like Pittsburgh knows how to pick wide receivers, and I really worry about the future of Juju Smith-Schuster with the emergence of Deontay Johnson and James Washington. I don't think that, I'm not lower on Juju's talent at all. I just think that it's going to be one of those situations where they spread it around a little bit. Vance McDonald should have a little bit of bounce back with Big Ben back there. I like Deontay Johnson a lot. I like all the other receivers that you named. There's a couple interesting names at the end that I'm curious on your opinion about. It's the guys that literally did nothing. And
like Andy Isabella.
Andy Isabella falls into that category. I think Hakeem Butler, who was injured in the preseason, falls into this category. Kelvin Harmon, who didn't really get on the field, but when he did, looked all right. Yep. And J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who I still believe in. I'm curious of the rundown of your opinion on those guys, and would you draft them in dynasty startup drafts?
Probably, but not too late. I mean, I'm talking like probably late 10, 11. Right at the point where you're basically playing for upside. Kelvin Harmon, he's a guy that I liked him in the process last year, but when he fell into Arizona, he's obviously got a rookie quarterback. Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald there. They're going to be the 1 and 2. And then I actually liked Andy Isabella over him. So when Andy Isabella went there, I was pretty happy. So I wouldn't be really willing to spend too high of a pick on any of those guys, but once you're at that point around 10, around 11, you're pretty much going for upside anyways, right? So if you were interested in these guys in your process last year, then they're definitely guys worth taking stabs at this year.
All right. Well, as we get into the last part of this podcast, why don't you just tell me one guy that's like literally off the radar, sophomore wide receiver, maybe due to injury, maybe due to lack of production, that you are seeking out in off-season trades, maybe not overtly telling people, hey, what do you want for this guy, but maybe kind of sneaking him in under the radar in a trade, someone that you're really targeting this year, that you're looking forward of the guys that, or afterthoughts that had maybe a little hype last year.
All right. So the guy that I am targeting, I am probably officially going to become a truther on, is Miles Boykin with the Baltimore Ravens. He's a guy that, frankly, he didn't have the great season. And it worries me a little bit because he really wasn't too injured. Like, I don't think he had any major injuries throughout the season. He just didn't really produce. It's tough because it's a low passing volume offense in the first place. But what I like is that he was like Lamar Jackson, the league MVP, was going for Boykin in that playoff game. That means whether there's a trust factor or not, or just because there's no other better options. I just like the upside of that offense. He was a beast. One of the criticisms is that he's not great at high pointing the ball and just out bullying people. So maybe that's something he can work on, right? It means that he's an athlete, he's a freak. And I just like the outlook of that offense. And, Lamar Jackson likes his tight ends. And what kind of wide receiver like Miles Boykin couldn't succeed in an offense where he's basically like a tight end body?
Yeah, I think that's a really good pick. I think that's really smart. I like Miles Boykin. I liked him at Notre Dame. I thought he was a good receiver. And as they start to make that a little bit more of a traditional offense, which I don't think they're going to make it a fully traditional offense, Miles Boykin seems like the perfect guy that's going to cost you nothing. I think that's a really smart. The guy that I like is probably a little, and that's, me, I love those deep plays. So kudos to you, Shane. The guy that I like, that I think that can be had for, I don't want to say cheap, but as part of a deal, is Preston Williams, Miami Dolphins. I think he showed enough. This guy, he really would have been a top 2-round real NFL pick had he not had some off the field stuff. And he looked like a monster out there to me. He got hurt, so he kind of fell off the dynasty radar. His owners are going to not just throw him away. But I think that I would trade any of my 22nd round picks for Preston Williams. If I had, as you get closer, you might be able to get him cheaper than that. You might be able to get him for a late second or some sort of package deal. But right now, if I had picked 206 and the 2020 class has a lot of hype in the second round pick, I would trade 206 for him, 204,
I think that, the fact that Devontae Parker came on was a lot to do with the fact that there wasn't really anybody else to throw to in Miami, which is why he came on. Preston Williams was ahead of Devontae Parker on that depth chart when he was healthy and on the field.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great pick. You're probably not going to have to spend too much on him just because he is still a Dolphin.
But he's gettable. He's gettable.
Yeah, he's gettable. Absolutely.
Right. There's certain guys like DJ Moore's not gettable unless you're over you know?
No, absolutely. This is a guy that, you could probably, I bet you if you threw in like a second round pick and like, somewhat of an upside type player, you might be able to get a Preston Williams. So that's exciting. All right, Al, so where can people find you?
Yeah, just on Twitter at Alan Seslowsky, AlanSCSLOWSKY. And then also over in the DFS Army, if you want to come over, we're still doing some off-season content. We're doing some public podcasts. Hopefully Shane will come back on, DFS Army season-long podcasts. And I'm over there in the Slack chat hanging out. And like I said, on Twitter.
Fantastic. So you can find us on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. Guys, if you like what you're listening to, please like and subscribe us. Tell your friends. And go and enjoy a great football game today.
I got a question before you sign off.
Yes.
Give the people the prediction, Shane. Who's winning and what's the final score of the Super Bowl?
Oh God, I think it's Niners by 3. I'm not going to give you a score.
Give me a score. Come on.
All right, let's go. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be like 35-32 for the Niners.
Okay, I'm going to go 28-24 Niners. So I'm taking the Niners with the points and the under.
Awesome. All right, guys, enjoy the game. We are the Flex Network.